Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. Today, we take our monthly look at the cattle market with Trey Freeman of Ever.Ag. Welcome, Trey. Good to see you again.
Good to be here again, Sarah.
For those of you that are tuning in, we thank you for being with us. If you have any questions for Trey, please post those there in the chat area on your screen or in your social media feed. So Trey, the big question, where's the cattle markets? Where's those record highs? Why haven't we seen those? What is going on?
You bet. Well, let's start off with a little rundown of next week, and then we'll get into the big dynamics that's really weighed on this cattle market here. But last week we saw cash markets for fed cattle trade around 187 to 188 per hundredweight across the plains. That was steady to $1 higher than the previous week in the south, about steady in the north. Cash markets have now been higher for 6 consecutive weeks. Packer margins have greatly improved due to sharp gains in box beef prices, with the Friday print at $320.65 per hundredweight. That's up $9 for that week. And again, going into this week, we're already trading $324. So we continue to see that box beef price continue to move higher here. Dressed steer weights reported at a whopping 9 pounds higher from last week, 28 pounds higher from a year ago. Dressed heifer weights were unchanged from last week at 857 pounds. That's 20 pounds higher than a year ago. So now through the first 40 weeks of this year, fed cattle slaughter down 130,700 head. That's about down 0.7%. But with cattle weight so heavy, production nearly 318 million pounds more over the same time frame. Overall, it was a volatile week last week in futures. Moderate to sharply higher prints in the morning box beef reports seemed to act as a safety net for live cattle in a couple of the sessions last week. On the fundamental side, cattle market direction, it's going to be a tug of war between production and demand into the end of the year. On the technical side, fund money flow in and out of live cattle futures, that may accelerate here with the presidential election less than 3 weeks out. Moving on to those record highs. Would you like me to get into that? Where are they at?
Yeah, let's see. Where are they?
You bet. Well, going back to cattle production, really it's been fed beef production higher year to date, despite smaller slaughter counts. Those elevated fed cattle dressed weights just continue to weigh on us. Non-fed beef production year to date, that's the lowest since 2016, but total beef production year to date is only fractionally lower. Steer slaughter down 12,400 head year to date, so 0.11%. Heifer slaughter down about 1.7%. Average throughout these first 39 weeks, steers have averaged 923 pounds. That's 24 pounds more than year to date last year, same time frame. Heifers 842 pounds. That's 20 pounds more. Fed cattle slaughter again down about 140,000 head, or 0.75%. Fed beef production again, I mean, we're up almost nearly 300 million pounds, or 1.8%. Cow slaughter, moving to the non-fed slide, down 752,000 head. That's down about 15%. Bull slaughter down 30,000. That's about 7.8%. Cows, again, these weights, 642 pounds average year to date, or 12 pounds more than same time frame last year. Bulls, 903 pounds. That's 29 pounds more. Looking at non-fed cattle slaughter, down about 780,000 head, or almost 15%. So that leads to non-fed beef production down 440 million pounds, or 12.8%. Total cattle slaughter down 920,000 head. Looking at those weights, all those cattle weights averaged together about 26 pounds more than last year at 846 pounds. So looking at total beef production, we're down 0.75%, but that non-fed up 1.8%. That's really weighing on prices here.
Are we starting to see any heifers being retained?
And that's a great question. With this drier weather, I mean, it's like in our place, in Western Oklahoma. I mean, we had record rains early this year. In the newspaper, they called it a once in a 1,000-year rain. And since then, we've had nothing. So we're starting to see those drought maps slowly turn red again. So it's very hard to tell, and it certainly didn't help. We didn't have that semi-annual cow report this year. Looks like they're going to discontinue that moving forward, but that is a slight concern as this drought map continues to widen these red spots here.
We did have our weather person on last week, and yeah, from just 1 month to the next, that map just
Mhm.
unfortunately lit up with drought. So let's talk about the international beef trade. What are we seeing when it comes to exports and imports? What are going on in those markets?
You bet. Total exports this year only down about 3.6%, down 75 million pounds. We continue to be hampered by high prices and the need for the product domestically. That strong U.S. dollar is broadly a dampening factor. I mean, just over the last month, we've seen it go from 99 cents up to about 103. So we've really seen some strength there. Breaking it down by country, Japan. That has been the strength, at least. That's we're holding on there. We're down only 1.1 million pounds, or about 0.25%. Japan values quality over price, so that certainly helped us continue the exports out to Japan. That sinking yen, though, that lifts import costs, so that'll continue to be a drag. Maybe we won't see a positive area into the end of the year due to the just the strengthening dollar and that sinking yen. But another thing, increasing competition for us from Australia, who's approaching the peak in their cattle cycle. Looking at U.S. beef exports to Korea, year to date down about 55 million pounds, down almost 12%. Looking at exports to Korea on a value basis, they're up 1.9% year to date, while other countries are in double-digit gains. That suggests they're more cost conscientious than other countries, so that may be a reason why we're down so sharply in Korea. China, we're down 35 million pounds, or down 10%. They are the world's largest beef importer, and they're struggling here. Some macroeconomic woes here this year. So East Asia, our top three importers of U.S. beef, down 91.5 million pounds, down about 7%. And again, Australia is in great position to grow their market share there in East Asia. They have herd expansion. Their fed production set to rise. A weak Australian dollar is certainly helping their exports. Hong Kong, you can include in there. They're down 5 million pounds, or about 9%. Exports to Hong Kong, they took a heavy toll from prolonged COVID-related restrictions. Food service sector and tourism slowly rebounding, but they took quite a knock there in the last 3 years, but they are tapering off. Taiwan down 5 million pounds, about 3.5%. Imports of U.S. beef to China skyrocketed in 2021. Taiwan missed the boat, and they've been very aggressive buyers since. So they are one that have held strength for the most part. Mexico up 22 million pounds, or 10%. Increasing demand for an expanding range of U.S. beef cuts. A strengthening peso has certainly helped out here. Let's see, moving to Canada, down 7 million pounds, or 4%. Very consistent year to year. Canada is. The U.S. Meat Export Federation, they're working to simplify the export process that sometimes slows trade, so that is a bright spot. Looking at other countries, exports up 12 million pounds, up about 5%. So again, total U.S. beef exports down about 75 million pounds, and that dollar just continues to weigh on us. Looking at the import side, up about 260 million pounds. That's huge. That's up 70% from last year to date. They're flush with cattle due to improved weather over the last 4 years, and they're approaching their peak cycle probably here in the late 2020s. That Australian dollar weakening against the U.S. dollar since 2021 sure makes Australian beef increasingly affordable. New Zealand, same thing, up 35 million pounds, 9%. Imports from New Zealand to continue to decline considerably. They're looking to decline considerably into year as their slaughter cycle, it's very seasonal. So putting those together, up almost 300 million pounds year to date for Australia and New Zealand. Brazil, another big one, up 147 million pounds, or 42% year to date. Uruguay, up 82 million pounds or 71%. Mexico, again, a bright spot here on the import side. They're down 71 million pounds or 15%. That Mexican peso strengthening against the US dollar into June of this year certainly helped, but it's weakened considerably, suggesting imports from Mexico to pick up here in the second half of the year. Canada, we're up 20 million pounds or 3%. And other countries up about 50 million pounds, 28%. So total U.S. beef imports up 523 million pounds or 21% year to date.
So lots of discussion about Australia,
Yes.
shipping in here to the US at a greater clip. Are you seeing that, or what's your expectations looking forward on that?
I mean, they're just we are contracting while they're expanding. And so looking forward, they continue to expand what we do. I mean, it looks like we're going to continue to contract here. And again, going back to the currency's exchange rate there, I mean, they are looking more and more attractive to other beef importers across the world just because their currency is so weak.
So what do you see going forward on the cash market for fed cattle? What's your kind of projection there?
I mean, the pattern there is, I mean, it's higher, up 6 consecutive weeks in a row. Now, beef production that continues to weigh on us, but the whole demand has all the bear to weigh. Let's put it that way. And we have seen these wholesale beef prices. I mean, we're trading 324. We saw a high of what was it, late June, early July, of that choice beef at 329 this year. So we're moving up there now. My concern is that retail beef prices in September, the average retail beef price was $8.21 a pound. Compared to August, that's 6 cents higher compared to a year ago. It's about 40 cents higher. And so we continue to see those retail beef prices move higher and higher. And so with these packers slowing the kill chain to help boost these box beef prices, that is a concern, because when does that start weighing on the margins of these? How hard is it? It'll be hard for these grocers to move down that retail price when we see that box beef move higher. And we've already seen consumers move away from the restaurant sector into the grocer just to for more at-home eating, just because it's so tough to pay those high prices at the restaurant here. And so when does that stop? When do consumers stop reaching for beef, other proteins, and start reaching for other proteins at the grocery store?
Right, that was gonna be what I was gonna ask. What is that point, and where does that
Exactly.
happen? And I mean, some of the I suppose the election could also play into some of that too,
Oh,
and we could
certainly.
see a whole bunch of changes coming here in just a short period of time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So what about key takeaways? What do you want our audience to take away and to think about as we move forward here over the next month?
Beef demand is carrying all the weight. As I went through our international trade, exports, imports, not to say even our feeder imports from Mexico, up 180,000 head, up over 20%. I believe it's 25%. So this global trade, the cattle market is ever more a global market, and so that is really weighing on our supplies here. We talk about these supplies, and it's been such a story, but the market's figuring out a way to help do with this shortage of supply. So now it comes down to beef demand. Consumers continue to pay, though. What were we looking at in 2023? We're looking at a upcoming recession, inflation woes, and what the consumer do? They continued to buy. Now, this year we haven't quite reached the level of demand we had last year. But I mean, just look at that. Going into 2023, we hit those record beef prices. And so, again, beef prices have really been holding us up here. And so that's going to continue. That's going to have to continue for us to see, possibly new record highs here.
Lots of things to watch as we move forward. So, Trey Freeman, thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing your insight with us. Look forward to catching up with you next month as well.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
And you can read Trey's weekly column in Beef Daily, the Beef Daily newsletter, if you'd like to see that. That's a good thing to kind of touch base in between our conversations here. For Feedstuffs 365, I'm Sarah Muirhead.